Hi, my name is Mike Wagner, and I'm the president and CEO of White Rabbit Group here in Des Moines, Iowa. A couple of years ago, I had the opportunity to speak at Living Stones Conference. Living Stones is a mutual ministry gathering of Episcopalians and Anglicans from Canada to talk about how to develop the ministry of the baptized and advance the mission of the church. I've been asked to talk today about some of the principles, some of the ideas that my company uses to help businesses grow their business and advance their brands. There are some principles that translate over into the church world. In fact, I feel that there really is a theology of branding, if you will, that could be developed as we think about what it is we're trying to communicate and how the world experiences the church. There are three things that we typically like to work with in terms of our clients. Three areas that if you and the people inside your congregations can unite around, agree upon, and commit to, if these three elements, which we call the three agreements, can become part of your community of faith, I believe it will advance your ministry and increase the ability of your community to tell the story that you've been called to tell. Now, the first thing that we ask people to work on is an agreement around who is it we are called to serve. Now, everyone obviously is a candidate for ministry, and we're called to serve the entire world. But individual congregations and even dioceses have to ask themselves, who can we be the best in the world at in terms of serving? Who is it that we're going to focus on? In the business world, clients that identify that are more successful because they can take their finite resources, the things that they have, and focus on really making a difference with that group of people. For example, in the business world, one of my favorite stories comes from a shoe company called Crocs. Many people know Crocs and are familiar with them. They focused on people who do not necessarily love fashion, but love comfort. And so lots of times I ask people, do you love Crocs or do you hate Crocs? And many people simply say, I don't wear them. I wouldn't be seen in public with them. On the other hand, there's usually somebody in the crowd, some percentage of the gathering that says, no, I love them, they're great, I wouldn't wear anything else. Crocs has become a very successful company by focusing on those people that they can serve, those people who are going to love their offering, going to love what they make, and going to love what they do. Well, the same thing for the church. Church leaders, parishioners, everyone has to sit down and come to a place of agreement where they agree this is who we are called to serve. Very important to understand that and to get agreement around that. Realizing again that you have a wide range of people that you reach out to, but there's going to be some people, some groups, some identifiable affinity gathering that you can touch and impact in a profound way. It's what you're called to do. It's what you're called to achieve. And so you have to understand who is it we have been called to reach. The second thing that I would challenge you to work on in terms of gaining agreement with everyone inside your congregation is this. Once we know who we're trying to reach, who we've been called to serve, then we have to identify what is it we promise those people. Now, what relevant promises will we make to them? Now, promise is a word that we use very carefully and intentionally. Promise is how you initiate a relationship of lasting value. Well, that's the reason we use a complex set of promises in a constitution to form a government, for example, a set of promises, if you will, between those doing the governing and those being governed. In the business world, we talk about contracts, another kind of specialized promise that allows us to create a relationship of lasting value and work together. In marriage, there are vows. Again, it is the way you initiate relationships of lasting value. When you organize the ministry of your churches, you have to ask yourself, what is it that we are promising? Those promises can be a set of 3 or 4 core promises that guide you, that act actually as a decision-making tool. Once you know what you promise, you can begin to come back and say, well, does this fit our promise or not? Should we do this ministry or not? Should we add this program or not? It becomes a way for you to make good decisions and to make them faster. Lots of times the church and the business world is slowed down by people who simply haven't identified what it is they promise. And that ends up in resulting a kind of conflict that has to constantly be negotiated, identified, worked through so that we can move forward. And sometimes churches and businesses get stalled out because they can't cut to the chase. They can't say, this is what we promised, so let's figure out how to deliver on that. So first agreement that you need to work on is what is it, who is it actually, that we are called to serve. Second agreement is what are the promises that will guide our ministry, that will inform our decision making and allow us to keep moving so that we don't stall out. The last agreement that we challenge people to work through and come to agreement around has to do with the unique way that they will keep their promises. Relevant promises are identified by the people you're called to serve. They are the ones who define what relevance looks like. But when it comes to the unique way that you deliver on your promises, the way that you keep covenant, the way you keep your promises, that's where the creativity of the church needs to be unearthed, and it's where it needs to be developed and fully expressed. And so what will be then the unique way that you keep your promises as a congregation? What will be different about you than perhaps other churches, other communities of faith, other experiences that people might have had? This is where you get to be creative. In fact, this is where you live in the image of a creator God and develop your insights, your special ways, your fingerprints, if you will, on the ministry that you've been given. Those are the three key agreements. And they form the basis of the conversation that every successful business, every successful brand has at its very core. What is it, who is it, I should say, that we agree that we are called to serve? What are the core promises that will inform our decisions? And then, creatively, how will we, in our unique and remarkable way, find our way of keeping those promises, of delivering on those? That's what congregations need to unite around as they begin to think through how can we grow, how can we advance, how can we fulfill our ministry, and how can we get the energy of our congregations focused outward rather than inward on ourselves. It's interesting that businesses and churches and not-for-profits, all kinds of organizations that we work with, struggle with these same three agreements. But when they get to that place where they understand who it is they're called to serve and what they promise and really what their creative way of delivering ministry is all about, that's when we see them energized. And that's when we see a unique level of unity that begins to make a difference and allows them to communicate who they are to the marketplace that they live in or for the communities in which they serve. Thanks for listening. I hope this advances your work there in Michigan.